Expected to be a fiercely contested election. The country continues to grapple, though, with deep socio-economic challenges ranging from persistent poverty and unemployment to allegations of corruption, human rights abuses, and concerns over the fairness of past elections. Already, more than 50 people have expressed interest in running, including 7 women who are promising a new direction for Uganda. Among them is Akello Peace Merisha, who's an activist, writer, and community leader. A graduate of Kyambogo University, she's been very vocal on issues such as education, civic empowerment, refugee resettlement, and regional integration. And now she's stepping forward as a presidential candidate, hoping to inspire a new generation of Ugandans. And she joins us now. Thank you so much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program, Akello.
Thank you very much. I am so happy to be hosted by you, and I hope to have a fruitful discussion. Thank you.
Well, it's a pleasure for us to get to know you, and I'm just wondering, at such a young age, what inspired you to run for office of president?
I've been in a class, and my teacher always tells us that what doesn't wait is time and responsibility. And at 22, I don't really think I am so young because in the next election cycle, we are going to have, the Gen X. Those are the other generation because I'm a Gen Z. I'm just 22, and I don't really think that's too young. But what inspires my mandate to show up in an election cycle, cruel as such in a country like mine, is because as young people, we want to see things change. We want to see things transition. We want to see things move away from just talking about them. In my country, we always talk about not exporting minerals. And then at the end of the day, we are going to export it at 80%, raw materials and all that. And you get to realize that we are exporting jobs. So it becomes something that we as young people have to come up, make sure that it changes, and most importantly give people a leadership that is action based, accountable, and willing to see things change. That's majorly why we are in this race at this moment in time. But we also want to redefine what peace has been, because when we first put out our poster, it was peace for Uganda. And we wanted to redefine, because every time our government has always reminded us, in the 1980s we brought about peace, we liberated this nation, and then we're like, we want to see what peace actually looks like. When our country right now is ranking high in teenage pregnancy, what peace is that does not empower its women and girls? We want to know what peace is that doesn't actually educate its people to be skilled, and most importantly innovate, rather be workers, and then we are crying about unemployment and all that. So we wanted to see things change. We wanted to offer a new perspective in this election cycle. Thank you very much.
Okay, so last count, there are over 170 opposition parties and independents. What what are you bringing to the table that's going to help you stand out and be competitive in this presidential race?
First and foremost, it's being authentic. you know because it's so hard at the moment. We have 211 people who have shown interest in these polls, and our ability to stand out will stand on the values that we bring. In a country like mine, the elections are highly monetized. That is one. So it comes back down to who has the paper, who can run the polls better, who can convince people. And at the end of the day, you get to realize that our politics is not idea based. At the end of the day, it's about, the vibe and all that. Our campaign is built on a clear vision. We want to empower the youth, we want to fight corruption, and ensuring that the fragmented agendas that have been promised over the years are seen come to pass. We are also going to look forward to interacting with as many young people as possible and look out for coalitions, get to work with people, because we get to realize that we can't stand alone. But offering practical solutions in a country where most politicians are going to be saying so and so should go, so and so should remain. I think we are going to position ourselves as an solution based candidature, offering solutions and seeing where the 2026 polls will lead us, most importantly. Yeah.
So, you've been outspoken on a number of issues, human rights issues, and with reports of government using military courts to deal with political opponents. Do you feel that you'll be able to campaign freely? I mean, I'm thinking about what's happened to Bobby Wine and Kizza Besigye. Does this not worry you?
It's very tricky, and at a moment where we are seeing people arrested, because we're still having people being abducted, taken to torture chambers and all that. One, we want to evolve as well and see how best political campaigns transition to a digital era. But as well, the internet coverage in our country is not so good, so we have to reach certain people through grassroots mobilization and the physical way. So we position ourselves to be able to protect the team, most importantly the people we are going to be moving with and all that. And we shall try so hard not to be at the end that provokes the people, the men in uniform, most importantly, because we would love to work with them. Yes, it is scary, but we're going to give it our best shot. That is one. And for the military courts, it's really scary that in our country we are having bail application hearings that are postponed over time. They bring people to court, like Dr. Kizza Besigye was brought to court, and the bail hearing was not finalized, to an extent where he had to communicate to his lawyers from prison, and he's like, we are going to boycott the court hearings. So it is scary. That is one. I don't want to tell anyone that I'm not scared, but we are going to give it our best. We're going to try and position ourselves. Whatever comes, we shall face it head on with honesty and boldness. Thank you.
So, women make up a small but growing share of Uganda's presidential candidates. I think there's seven
Yeah.
now that have put their names in. Do you see this as a sign that things are changing, that this could be a significant moment in Uganda's history for women and the country in general?
Yeah, sure. I am very honored. Uganda has always had one woman presidential candidate in an election cycle. And this time round, seeing many more women show interest, it's really so beautiful. It's really empowering, and it is going to bring across, voices of multiple women. And we look forward to what it's going to bring onto the table, because I believe each female candidate is unique in their own way. They're going to bring a certain value into the election cycle. So to me, it's progress. It shows that women have reached a point where they want to take on space, not by just having one face in an election cycle, but multiple faces, which are multiple voices. And we are looking forward to working with women groups, in this whole election cycle, women's networks and all that. And we are excited to what actually it is going to bring about. So this can amplify the impact of women and listening to more of their voices and all that stuff.
You talk about working with the women's groups. I'm wondering if might it not have been a better idea and maybe something to consider, rather coming together as a coalition instead of having too many candidates, too many parties that could split the vote?
Well, we are looking forward to coalitions, most importantly, but we are not going to get into coalitions from an end of being victims. So at the end of the day, the people have to be at the core of why we are getting into coalitions, of why we are working together, of why we are having a block vote. So we are going to try, sit, analyze, and see how best we can work together. That's something we look forward to, but we are not going to get into it for the sake of just having a block vote. at the end of the day.
Your critics will say that you're too young to be running a country. It's quite a complex thing, and it's more that you don't have enough experience. What do you say to people who say that?
Well, I am very inspired that people who have been in governance for the last 30, 40 years, at the end of the day, they are as well not able to deliver. So it comes back down to what leadership is. Leadership must encompass intentionality. You get, when we see things failing over time, it goes beyond it just being mistakes. You know, we get to understand what are our strategic goals. Are we willing to work with them? So as well, leaders are not made alone. I believe every wise man has, every king has wise men around him. And I am so honored that I'm going to be able to work with a number of young people, work with a number of wise people in this country who have studied a lot of things. And mine majorly is to discern what exactly is good for the country. That is what a person of the president is meant to do. What is good, you have to be able to discern, make the right choices for the people, because you're not going to be like a dictator and the sole thinker of the nation. So I don't think I'm too young, but I think I'm willing to grow. I am willing to learn. I am willing to evolve. I am willing to do everything possible to work for my people, put my people at the core of this campaign and at the core of leadership if God gives us the opportunity to be there. So yes, it's not about being young. It's about the willingness, the intentionality, the motive, the commitment at the end of the day, and willing to learn and evolve.
Now, you've worked with East Africa Must Unite, and I wonder how this has perhaps shaped your thinking and beliefs in terms of Uganda's role in the wider East Africa region and regional integration. Take us through your thinking there.
Okay, so when we first came up with East Africa Must Unite, because it is a young people initiative across different countries in East Africa, most importantly, we wanted to see things evolve, because just like Pan Africanism, we believe that the East African integration is something that has been hyped and we rarely see results. So it has made me come to a point where we want to see Uganda evolve from just being a country that exports peace to regions and countries that neighbor us, but as well be able to work with them to create more markets, have trade coalitions with them. We want to evolve, we want to grow as a region at the end of the day. So East Africa Must Unite has broadened my mind to the perspectives of the other young people, greater than I in knowledge, who want to see East Africa actually become an action-based bloc and influencing probably the unification of the whole of Africa in the near future, because it's something that a lot of young people look forward to doing and seeing come to pass. So yeah, that is it about East Africa Must Unite.
So, Uganda's anti homosexuality act has attracted a lot of international condemnation, and it does seem to have gotten a lot of support within Uganda, though, a very conservative country in that respect. What's your position on this, what some people might say, homophobic legislation?
Okay. So there is something about this law, because it's very sensitive. It cuts across, the interests of culture, but as well it affects the national interests of our people in relation to partnerships that we have with our other countries at the end of the day. But I am not seeing myself cross the line of my people morally. And just like you said, we are very cultural conservative at the end of the day. I believe the law is harsh. That is something that we ought to acknowledge. And we ought to find a balance between the cultural interests and then, the national interests. So my position on it would be that I would prefer that we lead with love. If we think our brothers on the other side, whatever they choose to do with their lives, because we believe that is the way of living as well, is wrong, then we ought to show them more love and compassion other than being harsh with them. And maybe we shall see things evolve with time. So yes, I think I would love to find a balance between the cultural interests, if I am person of the president, and then the national interests, but as well to protect the dignity of each and every citizen. Because someone being uh, I don't know how best to put it.
Okay.
Someone not being like us doesn't take away their dignity to right of living, most importantly, but as well to interact freely with the community. So yes, I think we ought to find a balance as a country, but as well as stakeholders at national level, if that comes to leadership, and knowing what boundaries we shouldn't cross at the end of the day. Thank you.
If you become president, how are you going to deal with unemployment? Because it affects young people the most. How are you going to create jobs?
On the question of unemployment, we are looking at ourselves not being able to export more raw materials. I can tell you that right now in Uganda, our iron ore is being exported between a range of 45 to $65. That's a ton. And when it's exported and processed in the neighborhood, which is Kenya, it is going to be sold, a ton that is refined is going to be sold between 700 and 800 US dollars. So we want to see ourselves not being able to export raw materials, more raw materials actually, to be able to have starter jobs. That is one. But when it comes to establishment of economic, self-economic zones, we want to look at the livelihood of our people, most importantly, because it's not like we're not having production factories, but what is the wage of our people, most importantly, the investors that are coming in, what is the balance between them and our people? Are we seeing skills being transferred? Are we seeing technology being transferred to our people, that Uganda is as well able to evolve? The issue that we found in this country is that our leaders are willing to give away a lot of things at chicken change price, right? That our oil is going to go away for, a 15%, as long as some of the big people are able to gain. So it doesn't matter what the national interest is in it. We're going to see ourselves do more of production. That is one thing. Uganda is evolving to the TVET, which is a technology, vocational, technical kind of education, and we see a lot of scaling. So we want to see our young people skilled, most importantly, being able to innovate and compete on the national scale. Now that will come back to us as a country, as leaders, to be able to find markets, to sign treaties, trade agreements, to be able to find a market outside Uganda, because at the end of the day, we can't just capitalize on the internal revenue, but as well finding markets outside the country will bring in more revenue. So that is one of the ways we are going to
Yeah.
do it, but as well trying to reform the education system.
Akello, we're going to have to leave it there, but we certainly wish you the best of luck. We'll be watching your campaign and see how things work out for you. But thank you so much indeed for giving us an opportunity to find out a little bit more about you and how you plan to lead your country. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much for hosting me. God bless you.
Thank you. That's Akello Peace Merisha, one of the youngest presidential candidates, one of 7 women. In fact, she's an activist and Ugandan presidential candidate in next year's elections. It's 8:30.